So, this is take two. I think I have done more take twos or take threes in recording videos this year than I have since I started recording videos for class. Yeah, I don't know. It's like in here, even in person, like lately, I just get way off topic and I'm just rambling. The other video that I was recording was talking about fire drills. Just because I'm getting a bunch of, so if I turn my head, I'm just getting a bunch of notifications from the high school about their fire drill in like 2 weeks from now. And we're not even attached to the high school. So we just happen to get all the, a lot of the emails from their listserv because we're in their listserv. So, boy, this fire drill. So I think it's only 6:38 and we have gotten two emails already. So, all right. So tomorrow, I'm assuming because no one told me that they're not going to be there. So I'm just gonna assume that you're there tomorrow. If you're not gonna be there, I would like to know. So, one thing with emailing back and forth, online class, if I ask a question in an email, I need a response back, not this silent stuff. Otherwise, this will not work. I'll just say, nope, I get their homework assignments, but when I ask other questions, otherwise, so I'm going to come over. We are going to go do an activity outside. So dress as though we're going to go outside and into a field. So I wouldn't wear your best. If you're a tennis shoe people, I wouldn't wear your best shoes out there. Yeah, so, but yeah. So we're going to move on. Put grades in yesterday. So if you're missing something in there, if you go into Power School and you see I don't have a grade for something, either resend it or say, check your email or your text message again, because I don't delete them. I save them all till the end of the school year, and then I go and delete so that I have records. So, but I think there's just one assignment missing from one student. So check your Power School, see if it's there. And if it's not there, and you thought you sent it, just resend it. Then it moves back to the top of my text messages or the top of my email so that I get it. All right, moving on. We are going to move into, I'm going to pull the TV here, agronomy. All right. I don't know if that got any better, but I'm going to share this website with you because I found it and I like it. It's going to kind of be our source of information. I don't do textbooks. So I have this other website that has some e-units, and I like the e-units because it's the reading material. If you were to get a textbook, it would be the textbook, but I like it because it's short, it's to the point. You don't have to sit there and read a bunch of mumbo jumbo. But we're going to use this as our base, so I will share this with you. So we're going to talk about agronomy. So, do you guys know what agronomy is? I know some kids do, some kids don't. It is basically the study of crops, the study of soils. I'm going to do it a little different. We are going to do crops and soils separately, but it all fits under agronomy. We're going to do crops later. I mean, not crops. We're going to do soil later in this school year because we got to do a project. So one of these days next week, you're going to start the project for the soil experiment that we'll do later because we need crops to grow, and then we need to cut them down and make the learning aid that we need. So agronomy, so if we look at agronomy, so agronomy is look at agriculture. Agronomists specialize in crop, as you can see, soil science there, as well as ecology. Those of you that agronomists, ecology is important, so that, they can determine, like insects, we need to be able to recognize good and bad insects. Sometimes there's good, sometimes there's bad. For example, honeybees are good insects. We need them. So like sometimes there's a honeybee that gets stuck in the classroom here because I keep the windows open and I keep our door propped. So sometimes a honeybee will sneak in and the kids are swatting at it. I go rescue the honeybee. But if a wasp comes in there, we're all trying to kill that dang thing because we don't want, wasps are not pollinators. So a bumblebee, never had a bumblebee get in here, but I've had a bumblebee get in my apartment. I trap them and I set them loose because bumblebees are pollinators. Butterflies are pollinators. In some insects, some insects are pollinators, some insects are pests. And we kind of need to make sure that we understand that. But anyways, so some of the things that agronomists do is they have to understand the properties of the soil. They have to know how soil interacts with the crops. So that's why we do a lot with soils. We have to understand the fertilizer needs, the nutrition needs of crops, especially the major one, NPK. If you take one thing that I would recommend if you going to become a grain farmer is we do study agronomy here. I do have a class on agronomy. Okay. With those, we got to know when to apply them. We have to know how crops grow. Agronomists need to know, how do they grow? What crops can grow where? What crops need different types of soil? Also within that, you got corn. You just don't plant corn. You have to plant the correct variety of corn for your soil type. So when people say they plant corn, sometimes I'll ask them, well, what variety do you plant? And even you have to know, depending on where you live, you have to know growing degree days or growing days. Further south in the United States, their corn is, they have more, it takes longer to get mature. That's what I'm trying to say. Because, their spring, summer, and fall is longer than ours. So, their climate is different, so they can have longer growing. Down, you talk about Indiana, in agronomy yesterday, we were talking about Indiana and Illinois and Iowa, they're getting 200 bushels per acre. Up here, we don't get that much. We were figuring a field yesterday. We were pre-yielding a field yesterday, and I just brought the field to the kids, so I kind of set something up. In that one field, I don't have the corn. They don't have the corn cobs anymore. I could. I threw them out in the woods for the birds and the squirrels. It was about 70. It wasn't very good corn to begin with. So it was like we're getting 70 bushels per acre. So it's not very good. Let's just say that. The corn did not look good. And at the same time, I didn't know what the corn was going to be used for. I was explaining to the kids, some cornfields are for silage. You got corn that's purposely for silage. And I didn't know what these fields would be used for. So, didn't quite know. So, but yeah, you have to know climate. We talk about climate a lot. We talk about how the weather affects the growth. Like this year, even in agronomy, kids were giving reasons to why maybe the yield was so low. And a lot of them were coming up with it was the drought. They didn't have the moisture that you need. We talked about how to control weeds and insects and all that stuff. Also, we have to be able to protect the environment. It's one thing with the crops, we need to make sure that the earth, the environment, and people merge together well. I mean, I think I'm reading a book right now. It's the hardest worst time, I believe it's called, or it's the worst hard time. And it's about the dirty 30s, the Dust Bowl, and how, especially it's more the Oklahoma, the northern part of Texas, Kansas, and how in the from like 1890 to 1920, they just turned dirt because they found that that area can grow great wheat. So they were turning dirt, and then all of a sudden, you know, the weather in the 1930s, which is where the dirty 30s come in, the Dust Bowl. And so let's just say the agriculture industry learned a lot from that. So that's where people are tearing them out. That's where the windrows and fields came from, is the dirty 30s. Okay, they realized, planting windrows will help prevent wind erosion, help control the wind in the field. But now, what are most people doing with the windrows? We're pulling them out. Some of them, they have died. The windrows have died, and so sometimes we'll get into a debate. We'll have a little discussion, more or less, about should we be tearing out those windrows and then planting them? Because that's what farmers are doing. They're tearing them out to plant that section, that little section of land. Or do we need to do something to control that wind? Because if you tear all the trees, you know, trees are a great windbreak. And of course, a lot of farmers no longer turn dirt fully over. A lot of farmers just cultivate, they leave stubble. That stubble helps keep that soil there. But then you still got farmers, especially around Fargo. You drive there, it's pure black after they're done cultivating. I mean, they have a pure black field, and it's like, wow, there's no cover. And on windy days, that's why sometimes in the Fargo area, ever notice on really windy days, it looks like fog or haze. That's the topsoil. You know, the farmers are losing all that. So, gotta learn to protect the environment. So that's part of what we're gonna do with agronomy. We're gonna study crops. We kind of just mainly stick to crops in North Dakota, but I do find other major crops that are growing, and we kind of just go through this right here, understanding what agronomy is. There's a short little video about, I'll probably have you watch that video for today. But yeah, so with agronomy, you're going to, you learn about agronomy. You're also going to do some ID. For example, you have to be able to identify different crops. You have to identify different equipment use. I think that's sometimes the kids' favorite part, because, you know, a lot of them know, okay, that's a tractor, that's an air seeder, and it's fun. We get into debates sometimes, because what I call a tool, what you call a tool, and its official name might be all different. You know, when I talk about a drill, I remember last year, kids had no idea when I was talking about a soybean drill, because no one uses them around here, because most people plant their soybeans with an air seeder, some type of seeder. But back where I'm from, people use a soybean drill, and that's one of the things you have to identify, and it's called a drill. There's a corn planter, but you can use it for other things besides corn, but it's called a corn planter. And then you got the air seeder, and so then you got the broadcaster. Some people will use broadcaster to when they want to put an alfalfa field in, they just broadcast the seed instead of planting it. So yeah, so there's a lot of different types of seeders out there that you're gonna have to learn. We have that identification. So other than that, we had an FFA meeting last night. I am going to talk more about FFA to see if you are are interested. And I'm also going to tie what we're talking about, how it relates to FFA. So for example, like agronomy, there's an actual agronomy judging contest. And I'm going to bring that up for you here in a minute here. Just got to go here. And DFFA. So you got agronomy, right? So right here is agronomy. So we have an agronomy contest. So basically in agronomy, and sometimes when you take the agronomy, if you ever take the agronomy class, and it can easily be an online class too, we do a lot, pretty much you got to do everything that's here. Now some of it correlates with each other, so you might be looking, well that's a lot. For example, we look at the grain market and you do an inspection. We just got done in an agronomy class doing the grain inspection sheet. So what that means is we determine the quality of that grain. We look for rocks, we look for stones, we look for disease, we look for insects, we look for damage of the crop, okay? All things you would need to know as an agronomist or as a farmer. You know, when you go to sell your crop, you know, you want the best crop, and let's say your combine is damaging the kernel, you need to fix that problem, okay? You have to identify equipment, you have to identify plants and seeds, and weeds. Weeds is a big one. You have to grade. Some of these just repeat because they really focus on soybeans and wheat as their. You have to know some disorders. That's probably the hardest part of agronomy is the disorders. You know, is it biological? Is it chemical? Or is it, there's one other one, environmental, okay? So identify. So keep that in mind. The agronomy contest is usually January, February. It's kind of, there's judging contests starting in January, and then there's state, which is in March in Minot. So just keep that in mind. There's a bunch of activities. Don't be afraid to try something. Also with FFA, we kind of like to do activities, you know. For example, last night at our FFA meeting, we were planning the homecoming float. Planning ideas for homecoming. We have to go get permission first because homecoming is a high school thing and we're our own separate school, so we have to get permission to do high school stuff. So yeah, we're looking at, you know, if you wanted to be an officer in FFA, we have some spots open just because we just don't have enough people to fill the FFA. I would give it a shot. We will do some activities related to FFA so you get an understanding. I think, you know, people associate FFA with just, you know, people go, well, it's the Future Farmers of America. FFA is no longer means that. We just did not change the letters. So when someone says the FFA stands for Future Farmers of America, I quickly address it as, no, it doesn't. It's the FFA stands for absolutely nothing anymore because agriculture is more than just farmers. And so we got to keep that in mind. As you go through this, some of you are in welding. There's a whole ag mechanics. People forget about ag mechanics. Sometimes forget about. I wish I could do more with ag mechanics, but it just doesn't work. Here's the thing right here. You know, this is a whole ag mechanics type of idea. We got this one. We got, which one is this? This might be, I have to scroll. Oh, okay. So we have basic ag mechanics. That's for 9th graders. Intermediate is for 10th graders. And then 11th and 12th graders, they do advanced ag mechanics. So we do welding in advance. Well, there's welding here and there's welding here. So there's project layout, there's the carpenter thing. Basic 9th graders, when they go to state, they build a project at state. They're looking to see how well they can follow up a plan. And so if you're interested in that kind of stuff. So I will share this website too. So don't be afraid to look at some FFA stuff. You probably would enjoy it. Most kids, once they learn what FFA is, they actually quite enjoy, because there's conferences, there's FFA camps. Nathan, if you know Nathan, sir, he's an FFA. He's going to be serve as our vice president this year. So if you want to be an FFA, want to know more about it, ask. So come on over and ask, or I can come tomorrow when I'm over there. Just ask some questions about it. I think everyone enjoys it. So other than that, we'll see you tomorrow in person. So there will be no video tomorrow because I will be there. See ya.